Hi, I'm Sydney Marshall. I'm the assistant curator here at the University Museums at Iowa State. We're here in the lower level of Morrill Hall with the Christian Petersen Art Museum, and we're going to talk a little bit today about Christian Petersen and his process in creating some public art. Christian Petersen started out as a fine artist in the northeast of America and actually in Chicago as well, but he was brought to Iowa State to be a public artist, mostly working in the project with the History of Dairying mural, and also then basically creating many different public artworks throughout campus. He basically is known for things like the Fountain of the Four Seasons, Conversations, the Three Athletes, many other works of art throughout our collection. And he is kind of different from some of the works of art you might find in a museum in that he is a public artist first. So he really needs to kind of focus on creating something with the idea of the campus in mind, right? So he has to respond to the needs of the students and also the president, Raymond Hughes, who brought him here with funding during the Great Depression. So it was really important for him to respond to any kind of criticism or ideas that he received from his proposals. And you can really see that in some of the drawings that are here in this hallway. So this hallway is a way for us to kind of display this thought process and kind of show the different iterations of an idea. So here we have, an early model of the maidens for the Fountain of the Four Seasons. And you can see they look very different from what was ended up as the maidens that are currently there with the Meskwaki maidens that Christian Petersen finally decided would be more appropriate for the site. So these are kind of collection items that really kind of help us look into the artist's thought process and get a better idea of how that goes along. So Christian Petersen had a pretty standard process for creating a lot of his artworks and also his public works of art. He mostly began by creating sketches and drawing. In some of his lectures he mentioned that he really thought that drawing and beginning with a really strong foundation in drawing was really important for sculptors, and that if you weren't able to do that kind of two-dimensional form, then it would be really difficult for you to transfer that into like a larger three-dimensional object. So you can see here we have some sketches. A lot of them might just be really kind of beginning lines. Here you might recognize Conversations and some sketches for that. But he really kind of wanted to begin with all angles of the sculpture in sketches. Even if it was just a few kind of gesture lines, he would sketch it out to the way that it would be kind of blocked out in stone later. And then after moving to these sketches, he would usually kind of move towards a clay modeling, even if it was really kind of rough, which you can kind of see here. It might just kind of be more moving into the third dimension, right? Taking this drawing and making it into a more three-dimensional object that was still very rough, but just to get the idea of more of the spacing. And then whenever he was basically ready with the structure of the overall sculpture, he would create a smaller model with the features much more blocked in, and you can kind of get a recognizable image that you would be able to see rather than some of these more rough sketches. And this would be something, especially with projects that would need to be approved by the president, that you could bring and kind of show and get feedback from. And you can especially see that with like the Fountain of the Four Seasons maidens. They're very different, like I mentioned, from what was then put in later. So that would be a way for him to kind of present the overall idea and get an idea of the spacing and the blocking before he obviously moved into the larger either terracotta or limestone sculpture. And if that was basically approved, he would then move into the large sculpture by chiseling into this Bedford limestone, which is from Indiana. He uses basically in all of his public art stone sculptures that we have on campus. He also used terracotta quite frequently, also in the Three Athletes and the Reclining Nudes, among others too. So through this process, Christian Petersen created 12 public works of art here at Iowa State, as well as many other smaller works of art and maquettes and models and drawings throughout his career here. He stayed at Iowa State through the 1950s when he retired, and really left a lasting legacy here at University Museums. When Christian Petersen also would create these works of art, he really researched and created thoughtful expressions of these different areas of campus through history of daring, through athletes. He really studied kind of people moving and movement and musculature. In history of daring, he became really familiar with both the modern and historical aspects of dairying to portray this in an accurate way. And you can really see this in his work. And this tradition is continued today with our public art collection. A lot of the artists who are represented in our collection really work with a committee who's represented by the department that the work is housed in. And so something like this, so this is my bio, a sketch for that by Andrew Leicester. And so he really became familiar with all the contemporary genetic and genomic research that was happening at the time to be able to present that in an artful way on campus. And you can really see that in all of our public works of art, and it's kind of an interesting part of the process for public artists. So thank you for coming on this little tour with us, and we hope that you will kind of explore campus the next time you're out here and see what kind of public art you can find on your walks around. You can also look at our online virtual map of campus, and you can see all the different locations of our public art and really get some more information on the artists and some of their process as well.